Hi, this is PubShorts episode 4, Trust in the Name of Science. My name is Dr. KK. I'm Innovation Officer at Enago, and joining me is Tony. Tony, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, KK. How are you?
Tony, could you briefly introduce yourself and what Trinka and Enago are?
Yeah, sure. I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm Vice President here at Enago. I look after our publisher relationships and society relationships. I've worked in the publishing industry for longer than I've had hair. Trinka is our AI universe. Trinka is a suite of tools that helps authors and publishers to improve the quality and structure of scholarly content. And what is PubShorts? Good question.
PubShorts is a short video, sort of a conversational content regarding the latest developments in the field of academic publishing as well as language technology. And we cover different themed episodes. And today's themed episode is based on research integrity. And Tony, did you get the song reference for this episode's name? This is a U2 song, Pride in the Name of Life.
Of course, yeah. So I saw that tour when it happened in 1987.
All right, so let's start with the first topic itself, Tony. So let me know when you can see my screen. So this is a news story published by Orchid. Orchid has now started adding verified email domains as a new type of trust marker. So this is apart from or in addition to validated affiliations, funding, awards, and works contributed by member organizations. And it is visible as these green tick marks, and they are claiming, Orchid is claiming, to add the provenance information for verified domains in 2025. Yeah. So Tony, your thoughts?
Oh, this is so important. I mean, one of the great challenges that I think particularly Western publishers have is to identify for certain who the author is, particularly from certain countries where a surname or first name may be very common. Mm-hmm. And anything that can sort of validate or verify who the author is only a good thing. The thing that surprised me reading this paper, though, was how few authors actually allow their institutional email address to be shared. I mean, It was less than 5%. And for me, I don't see what the restriction is. Mm-hmm. If the author's able to control their email addresses and their profile, and if they change jobs, then all they need to do is simply update their email address, their institutional email address. So I think this is a really positive step and a simple and elegant solution.
Right. And Tony, I have checked I guess I do not have an institutional affiliation. I've checked my Orchid and I don't have a green check mark, so I'm disappointed. But let's
that can change.
Let's move on to the second story. This is regarding stealth journal article corrections. So this is basically on Retraction Watch, as you can see, so I'll summarize the story. So stealth corrections are those that are done without public correction notices issued by journals. So some volunteers have found out that by reviewing published works and resources like PubPeer, that some corrections were made without obviously public notices, and these corrections were related to figures, author names, and the use of generative AI. Now, two publishers have issued statements. MDPI state that not all corrections may require notices, especially if they do not affect the scientific record. And Elsevier states that it'll continue investigating papers and will continue to issue notices. So, Tony, what are your thoughts?
I suppose my overarching concern about all this, apart from the fact that, first of all, this research was done by a gentleman called Rene Aquarius, the best name I've heard all year in this space. A fantastic, almost a rock star name.
Yes.
No, but seriously, it's. I've lost my thread. No, it's so important that the author knows what the version of record is. So if content's going to be changed, there has to be some way of tracking and monitoring that.
Right.
And who determines what is the version of record? Right. Who determines whether a change should be notified and made public?
Right.
I think I can't remember who it was. I think it was Guillaume Cabernac. We talked about him in the last session. Yeah. Makes reference to using blockchain technology as a means of managing the changes to the paper. At least to be able to record those changes, because you can't, once it's in blockchain, you can't change it, and it's public. And I think that's a really useful suggestion. So I'm concerned that there seems to be sort of mixed messages going out in our marketplace about what needs to be done to be able to communicate, or that would instigate a notification of change.
Right.
in the paper.
So I agree with you. Rene Aquarius is a fantastic name, and he looks like he could walk into The Voice or something and start singing and impressing. So he's an excellent thing. And to be fair, I mean, in this case, I'm a little concerned that whatever changes that are made in the papers should be publicized or let known to the rest of the world that things have been changed. So I go with the Elsevier policy that they will continue to issue notices.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my take on this is very simple. Is that if a reader is reading a journal or reading a journal paper, they're reading it because there's that trust, there's that integrity, that there's assurance of quality.
Right.
And if on day one the paper is different from day two,
right,
then something needs to be communicated to the author.
Right. I guess we both agree on the fact that substantive changes, especially the ones related to the scientific record, if there are changes, they need to be publicized in a...
I disagree. I think all changes need to be notified.
Right.
There needs to be a register. These are the changes.
So then we are in consensus. That's what I also want. I want to stick to the Elsevier stance. So moving on to the third research story. This is related to review mills. So Tony, for somebody who is not familiar with the concept of paper mills and review mills, could you explain what these are?
Well, a paper mill, I think most people know about. A paper mill is a business whose existence is really to create scientific content, to make money out of creating, often incorrect scientific content, because it's using AI to sort of pull material together. A review mills is the same thing. It's using AI technology, for example, to create reviews.
Right. So this paper seems to say that these are sort of like, they can be identified. Review mill outputs or review mill reports can be identified on the basis of them being based on a template and having generic, vague, and often repeated affirmations. So these are cliched and predictable phrases regardless of the scientific content of the paper under review. So it's like tortured phrases, which we are covering in a few. So
I think we need to be a little bit careful though, KK. So I mean, a lot of publishers will have templates that they want to use, that they ask reviewers to use when assessing a paper. And those templates, by their very nature, might require certain phrases to be used. So I think there has to be an air of caution, but it is a known issue.
Yes. And so these review mills, why they exist is because they want to promote citation. So it's like there is an angle of citation manipulation, and that's the reason why you have many reviews coming in. And this paper obviously calls for the need to identify such review mills and to establish measures for maintaining research integrity. And in response to what, Tony, you said, obviously templates for reviews are welcome, but what we're talking about is English phrases within the content of the review, which naturally, if you and I were to write to review reports, it would be different. But they are finding similar phrases. I mean, Tony and KK are writing the same phrases for the same content, the same template. That's what you're talking about.
And you can understand why there's a certain amount of gamification taking place here, because there are now benefits and reward systems in place for reviewing papers, whether it's a credit against a future APC or something else.
Yes. So moving on to our fourth story, we are trying to keep it short because the entire our show is called PubShorts. So the next story is a very, very interesting. I think you have some personal anecdotes to share. So I'll just quickly summarize it. So Aries and Clear Skies have integrated, I suppose, a paper mill detection now. Paper mill alarm is the name of the product, and it's now embedded within Editorial Manager. And now it uses artificial intelligence, network analysis, and data analysis for detecting paper mills, as in papers that have originated from paper mills. And these give automated alerts to the editor, which is very useful for the journal editors. And there is a color coding system to indicate the levels of similarity with mill products. And it is very useful for the editors. The editors also receive context for the flagged manuscript. So I was very happy to read this. So Tony, what are your thoughts, and share your experience at the conference that you recently attended?
I know. Well, two things about this. I mean, this I think is the first of many similar integrations that are going to take place with these platforms. Like whether it's Editorial Manager or Scholar One or others. What they want to be able to do is to be able to create a seamless workflow for the editors that are managing these journals, and these editors are using tools like Clear Skies and others to be able to assess potential problems with the paper. I mean, it's interesting. The paper mill detection, the paper mill alarm, won an award last week. I was at the ALPSP conference in Manchester in the UK, and it was considered to be such a novel and exciting product for publishers, for benefiting publishers, that it won the Alps Award for Innovation.
Excellent. I mean, I'm hoping that there will be review mill alarms soon in the future as well, and any other things like including the ORCID trust marker thing. I mean, if it is if it is integrated into all sorts of submission systems, you could verify whether the paper being submitted is not by a paper mill. It is written by an actual human being who is affiliated to an institution, and eventually, when the review comes in from the peer reviewers, you can also assure that it's not from a review mill. So, your thoughts?
Yeah. Just more general thoughts that there are so many different tools being developed, whether it's around paper mills, whether it's around image manipulation, and so many different tools being developed that we're reaching a point where eventually it will be a seamless process, regardless of what platform the publisher is using. Excellent. Of course, it's only as good as the latest version of the tools that are being used by the culprits here. Yeah.
Right. So I'm moving on to the next topic. This is interesting. I mean, I'm expecting you to have a big smile when I read this. So this is related. This is actually an op-ed piece from Science CS, Council of Science Editors blog. Yeah. And this basically says that human copy editors are essential in the age of AI, where everybody is questioning what is the role of a human being. Yeah. So human copy editors are essential for fixing tortured phrases. Now, what are tortured phrases? These are inaccurate or unconventional terms or phrases introduced into scientific writing, and these are often due to the use of AI or translation tools. So some examples listed in this paper include the use of substantial metals instead of heavy metals, which was very funny for me, and the use of corrosive instead of acid. Now, the paper or the author argues for the human copy editors to play a key role in detecting irregular scientific terms and improving the quality of scholarly communication. Now, when I read this, I started my career in academic publishing as a manuscript editor, and I had a big smile. I hope you have a similar sort of a reaction, because we have a big editorial services aspect to our business, right?
One of the things I liked about this paper, I mean, okay, the Council of Science Editors, it's their mission to further the value of the scientific editor, and I think the role of technology is going to change over the coming years. But one of the things I particularly liked was in that first paragraph where they said, the role of the editor is about clarity, coherency, consistency, conciseness, comprehensibility, and correctness. Those 6 C's are key to every editor's work.
Right. So, I mean, I'm very happy that the human beings will always remain, in my opinion, no matter how many AI-related innovation will come in, especially in the academic publishing scientific research space, because after all, we need a lot of, the science is built on the foundation of trust and integrity, and only humans can establish that. So I'm very happy to read this. So I'm moving on to the next paper, which is again related to AI. Next story, actually. So this is a call from the Global Academic Integrity Network, called GAIN. That is a group of 40 higher education regulators, and it urges platforms like Google, Twitter or X and LinkedIn to block ads for essay mills. Now, we have talked about paper mills, review mills. This is the third mill we are talking about. So what are essay mills? Obviously, places or institutions that can generate essays for students. Now, what this does is that it undermines the student learning and it erodes the trust in the academic institutions and the professional qualifications. Yeah. And Tony, these days we have to worry about things like ChatGPT, which are actually essay mills, and this is the most favorite essay mill of 2024. So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, it's a very valid plea, I think.
I think it's absolutely valid. And I think the need to address those sort of validity issues and those learning issues from students goes beyond the single institution or the single regulatory body. It's a global issue. We want students to learn in the most effective way, and writing papers using essay mills is not an effective way of using their skills. I think they again, we're in that sort of middle ground. I think how technology can be used to support the learning process, and I think these 40 standards agencies are absolutely correct to want to engage with high tech, big tech to address this.
Right, and that brings us to the last story. There are a couple of quick hits after this, but this is related to research integrity and data integrity. So this is from Retraction Watch. So Nature Synthesis is a journal. It has retracted a paper because of fabricated data. So it is a high-profile study published in this journal. It claims the creation of a new form of carbon called graphene. I hope I'm pronouncing it right.
Graphene.
Isn't graphene with an E? Okay, fine. It might be graphene.
I beg your pardon. Graphene. Yes, I'm so sir. You're right. Yes, graphene.
Yeah, so graphene is something that I'm familiar with. This is graphene related.
Fine.
So the article on Retraction Watch states that a certain data used in supplementary figures S10 were fabricated, and the structure, whatever they have used, appear to have been generated through a common computer simulation with incorrect parameters. Now, when I looked at this paper, when I read this paper and I sent it to you, I was immediately alarmed by the fact that this is actually related to a figure and it's image manipulation. And we've been talking a lot about image manipulation and image manipulation detection. So, Tony, your thoughts?
Yes, Nature Synthesis was absolutely correct to ask for the paper to be retracted, and to be fair, the authors of the paper did retract the paper and did admit there were some issues around one of the tables that was introduced. I tell you what, my first thoughts when I read this paper, there was a TV program I used to love called The Big Bang Theory, and one of the characters in The Big Bang Theory made a discovery. Which then got highly lauded, only to find out, this is rather on purpose by error, that one of his calculations was incorrect by a factor of 10,000. And therefore he had to withdraw the paper, and he was known by his colleagues as the retractor as a result of this. This is absolutely just an example of the pressure to be published in high impact journals and how that can impact on the career.
Right.
Of a researcher.
When you mentioned a TV show, I thought we were going to go to Black Mirror, because this seems like graphene and new tech materials. I have not caught up with my Big Bang Theory yet, but we have come to the end of our main talking points. Now I have a quick hit with you. So you were at ALPSP Apps, and you had a wonderful experience, I hear. So tell us more about what you experienced and what sessions you had.
For those of you who don't know, the ALPS conference, ALPS is the annual the Association of Learned and Professional and Society Publishers, and their annual conference is one of the highlights of my year. It's where the great and the good of academic publishing, mostly from the world of publishing and some research organizations, get together to discuss topics of mutual interest. I mean, big topics this year were things like the use of AI, the influence of AI, but also other things such as, open access was still a topic. Integrity in book publishing comes up as a topic as well. So it's a very, very good conference. About 300 people attending from all over the world.
And did you have any interesting culinary or other experiences outside of it?
No, the culinary experiences are nothing particularly to decent enough food, but we were in the top. We came in the top 4, and my team came in the top 4 of the Alps quiz, which takes place every year. So I was pleased about that.
Oh, excellent! And how was the drive? You mentioned a 4-hour drive, right?
7-hour drive on the way back.
Okay.
The motorway was closed.
All right. So it was. It was
painful. The drive was painful.
Well, what is not painful is another news article or news item from OpenAI, which has released yet another language model called E04. So I'll summarize it. It is internally called Strawberry. It is supposed to have an enhanced reasoning system, and it does better in math and physics, but still 4.0, the one that we are all using generally, is considered to be better for general use cases. So Tony, do you use ChatGPT 4.0 or GPT 4.0 quite often in your work?
No, I tend not to use it very much at all. I have used it, of course, but no, I'm not a user, although I have plenty of colleagues that do.
Yeah, and I have not tried O1 out, but I intend to try it for some complex reasoning. But I'll let you know how my experience has been when I get to it. So this was a very fast episode, Tony. So we are almost the end of the episode. So what are you looking forward to? The next week is the peer review week, is it not?
Next week is peer review week. And what I'm really looking forward to, though, is any feedback and comments from anyone watching this podcast on terms of ideas and topics for future discussion.
And how can they send us, Tony, this?
They can write to me at tonyo@enago.com, or they can contact Enago directly.
Right.
By the Enago website.
Yeah, you can also find Enago or Trinka if you search for these terms on any social media, and you can find me on LinkedIn as well. So send us your thoughts, your comments, and we will love to cover those in our future episodes. So Tony, any parting thoughts? And we have to have a peer review themed episode the next for episode 5. So I'm looking forward to it. Any other parting thoughts for you?
No, apart from I look forward to next week's discussion.
One quick question: do you have your new guitar yet?
No time. I haven't got enough time to play my existing guitars at the moment.
All right. So on behalf of everybody who supports us in creating such content, this is Dr. KK signing off. On behalf of Tony as well, this is PubShorts, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.